on to our second game, even though we've recorded so many before this, and we're recording everything out of order, and that was a terrible idea. We are talking about Shadows of Valentia, the 2017 remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, and Jacob's still here. He was in last time. I'm still here. And also with us, we have James and Izanagi. Can you guys please introduce yourselves? This is your first introduction to them.
Sure. I'm James. I have a YouTube channel in 10 cities, so I do some Fire Emblem videos there. I also record a podcast with Chase on the Cosmic Casters Lord and Mercenaries podcast, so we do that, and
all that will be linked down below.
Thank you. And so I'm just happy to be here, and that's one of my favorite games ever.
All right, now Izanagi.
Buenas noches y buenos días, gente. My name is Izanagi. I do not have a YouTube channel. I've been wanting to, but I'm lazy.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that.
And, well, that's it. I'm not a Fire Emblem veteran. I am pretty much still a noob. Here with these guys, about to talk about my one of my favorite games.
All right, excellent. And just heads up for everyone in case you were wondering, all of us love this game. Like Jacob, you haven't talked yet, but I'm pretty sure you love this game.
It's probably the best game in the series, tied with New Mystery.
Yep, I would agree with that. So generally, where was this in the Fire Emblem order for you guys? For me, this is the second game I beat.
This was the first game I've beaten.
Oh.
I think this was the fourth for me, thinking about it. I mean, Fates I count as one game. Yeah, this is the fourth.
Trying to think. I think this was like the
15th.
No, it was the 13th because I didn't bother with 1 or 3 at this point. But I did play the original Gaiden.
Okay, yeah, that's fair
actually. Man,
1 and 3 suck. But now's not the place for that. We talked about it earlier, and we will talk about it later. So, getting back to this game, what do you guys think of it? What makes this, in most of our opinions, the best game in the series?
I think that it's a wonderful combination of story, gameplay, and character units, where the gameplay is easy to pick up and still challenging at the same time, even in the easier mode. I love the rewind mechanic and the things they've added there, but at the same time, you have this epic tale that I think is one of the best stories in Fire Emblem, and at least from the games I played, and along with a fantastic cast and a well-written dialogue and first-time voice acting. I think did a world of help, and they had full voice acting, and they had a incredible cast for that. And it was one of the few games where I feel comfortable playing the English dub, because sometimes the English dub is not very good. But I think they did a fantastic job in this game.
Yeah, all the voice actors, like even the ones that were playing like little bit parts, were really giving it their all in this game.
Really, ever since this game, they've been really good with the voice acting in Fire Emblem games, even in War.
I agree, yeah.
Yep.
That's true. And I really think that adding in the voice acting really brought a lot to the characterization and a lot to your investment in the story.
True.
Like, really, that's possibly the single best change they made in Fire Emblem since support conversations.
It really does bring the game alive.
It's been a long time since we got support conversations.
No, yeah, the voice acting really does bring the game, alive, in my opinion. The support conversations and, Erica Lindbeck with Sullivant, it's every time she speaks, it just tugs like the little strings in my heart, But yeah, everybody did a fantastic job. Berkut. Oh, geez. Like, if I could pick a voice actor to do all the villains, it would be his voice actor.
Lies, lies, lies.
That
You know what?
that really like legitly just convinced me. Like, yep,
Oh yeah.
this voice actor.
Probably speaking of Berkut, one of the best villains in the series.
Yeah, I
too.
agree. Who was added, right? He was
Like-
added for the remake, correct?
He was
Yeah,
added, yes.
completely new to
Added.
the remake.
They did a very good job. 'Cause sometimes when you add something to a remake, it just kind of it feel like it's jammed in there. It doesn't blend well. But in this case, I felt like it did a very good job.
Okay,
Outside like the turn wheel, all of the additions feel like they were there originally.
Yeah, that's
okay. On that note, I'm probably the only person here who has played the original Gaiden before this game, and I have to say, I want to say 90% of this game was added.
Hey, there you go. Fantastic.
Like, okay, like dialogue did not exist. Most of these
Oh,
characters didn't even have.
Right,
most
yeah.
of these characters didn't even have dialogue in the original game.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
the struggles of
You could
know,
play
original era Fire
You could
Emblem.
play the original Fire Emblem Gaiden for like 6 hours and not even have anyone speak a syllable. So overall, going from Gaiden to Echoes, the original Gaiden had a unique concept, and I think that was enough for me to tolerate at the time because no other game really did a lot of the concepts it did. And then when Echoes happened, I was so blown away that I kind of realized, wow, Gaiden's actually kind of terrible when you think about it. But yeah, Echoes did such a good job. It kind of took what New Mystery did and kind of built the foundation upon that for the most part. They took the adding support conversations to the remake. They really went all in on that, I can tell. This is also, I believe, the first time they started adding support conversations directly through DLC, which has been continued with Three Houses, which I think is a lot better than the festival maps that Awakening and Fates did to try and get quote-unquote support conversations between characters that didn't have them.
I will say some of the support to conversations from the DLC were some of the best support conversations in the game as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like, talk about added characterization for characters who needed it. Python and Forsyth both got a full set of new supports.
Yeah, I actually do think I prefer the model of adding supports via DLC instead of having this awkward festival map where everyone has kind of supports that Awakening and Fates did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Fates version of that never did get localized either, so.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, we're talking about Fates again.
Can
we're talking about a good game.
Yeah, so it's really nice to have that perspective of what it was like in Gaiden versus the remake. And so you bring up some of the changes. How it was the black sheep of the family. How about like getting rid of the weapon triangle? What did you guys feel about that?
I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit that. But I think the change in classes to having it so each person can only have one type of weapon, outside obviously like the priestesses, was a good way to get around that. Where it really didn't feel quite as necessary because characters can't, control 2/3 of the weapon triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Or the entirety of the weapon triangle if you're in the GBA trilogy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, and to me, it almost felt a little refreshing not having to think too hard about. Well, I mean, you're thinking about different things besides you. It wasn't necessarily okay. Does he have a spear? All right, use my axe.
It's more complicated than rock paper
exactly.
scissors.
And I appreciated that, and I feel that knowledge that intelligence is gained from that can be carried on to was carried on to Three Houses, I believe. So at least it felt like that way. So I appreciate this game for that.
Yeah, on the subject of Three Houses, this game was one of the, I think, 4 primary inspirations for it. The other games that were primary inspirations for it, off the top of my head, according to Intelligence Systems, were Radiant Dawn, New Mystery of the Emblem, and Genealogy was the biggest one along with Echoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the Fates was a bit in there as well with some of the mechanics they had.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, that's kind of besides the point. Since
Oh yeah, that's Three Houses. This isn't Three Houses.
But-
So
this is still a better
we can
game.
thank Echoes for the game we have in Three Houses, I guess you'd say.
Yes, definitely. I think Echoes is really everything that they needed in Fates that they didn't have.
Fair.
And then they took the two of those games and put them together and created Three Houses. Will say am minorly disappointed they never added any playable axe users to this game because I like axe users.
I
but...
almost felt like we were gonna have Anna for one route and Jake for another whenever this game first came out. And I think you remember
that would have been so good.
Yeah, like I really think Anna would have been in one route, Jake would have been in another, but they didn't do that, I guess, because
Now they doubled down on no Annas in Valentia.
yeah,
Which is sad,
yeah,
though.
they did. Which I'm fine with because it led to a warrior support conversation that is probably the most hilarious one in the entire game, where Anna just like has a mental breakdown with Celica.
It is a beautiful conversation. Let's see. What else has this game done we can talk about? How do you guys feel the map mechanic compares to the later games that have maps? Like compared to Sacred Stones, Fates, and Awakening?
I actually think this is the best implementation of the map mechanic personally still, which is why I kind of tolerated Effie Gaiden for the longest time, because the main gimmick of controlling two armies at the same time has never really been done before or since, aside from Echoes, and I think it's a really unique sort of hook to this game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because if there's a side that you're like, I want to see what Celica's doing, just like back and forth between them, and I like the ease of traveling within the map. Sometimes the zombies were a little annoying, but you could get them around.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, I totally agree. I like this more than Awakening's map, and at least for me.
I think this is also the only map. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is also the only map where enemies actively pursue you on it.
Yeah.
I do really like that. Like, that was something I was kind of missing when I picked up Sacred Stones and saw that they had a map, but all the enemies just kind of stood there.
Yeah, Awakening and Fates is
Just
one
kind of
map
built
that's
up and
closer to
got in your
Sacred
way.
Stones.
I mean, like, a lot of the interplay between, like, especially when you get into Act 4, and, like, what happens in one route actually affects what's going on in the other route. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I really like that.
Even though there could have been more back and forth where, everything in the game as it currently stands is something happens in Celica's route to affect Alm's route, and Alm's route really doesn't affect Celica's route that much.
Yeah, that's probably a carryover from FE2 on the NES, because that's how it was there too.
Yeah, probably.
I guess like another positive that I want to mention is the music. I think this is one of my favorite FE soundtracks. It's fantastic. My favorite track by far is the end credit one where, oh gosh, why can't
Oh yeah.
Why can't...
Heritors of Arcadia?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that gives me chills. I literally cry when I hear that.
Yeah.
When I hear that,
Like,
it's so beautiful.
Single best song in the entire franchise.
It's so good.
I will tell you this. It's a little story, track. But I went to Best Buy, and this is before I, got jumped into Fire Emblem. And I think it was like a week or 2 weeks that the Echoes had dropped. And Best Buy had a little demo on the little 3DS.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they did. But once you started up, they started with, the actual opening movie. And I'll tell you what, that short clip of all the cutscenes is the main reason why I got back into Fire Emblem.
I think I can hear and see that trailer in my head.
That soundtrack is called Omen, and it's just shivering down my neck every time I hear it. And I totally agree with you that the music, the score in this game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, Twilight of the Gods, fantastic.
Twilight of the Gods, oh yes.
Lord of the Dead Empire.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah,
So
Miller's
good.
Ordeal.
And then all the map theme, different map
The
themes.
Scions dancing.
So good. Oh.
A lot of people had really high expectations for a few of these map themes going in because Fire Emblem Gaiden, for some reason, its music became pretty iconic.
Oh really?
The player map theme, I know, appeared in Binding Blade, and that's where a lot of people really latched onto it. And then some of its OST appeared in Sacred Stones as well. So a lot of people
And didn't
had
like
a
Mill's
lot of high
Divine Protection
expectations.
show up in Smash as well?
Yeah, Miller's Divine Protection was in Smash Bros. I'm pretty sure that's where a lot of people first heard it. A lot of people had really high expectations going into this, including myself, and I think Echoes actually managed to exceed those expectations with the songs that they actually remixed.
That's incredible.
That's
amazing.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Twilight of the Gods in particular blew a lot of people away.
Oh yes. Yes. Like I have a
Like,
I have
this
a
is
friend
what video
who
game music should be.
Definitely.
I have a friend who writes music, and he said this song kind of changed the way he approaches music, like he approaches his songwriting.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it at the time. I mean, I'm sure it has new inspiration and whatnot, but when he first heard that, and he's a big Fire Emblem fan too. He like a lot of his some of his songs were kind of inspired by some of the themes and different mechanics. I don't know if that's the right word, but different tactics that were used.
One thing I really appreciate about this game is, like Shadow Dragon and New Mystery of the Emblem before it, has a really heavy focus on the lore of the Arcania trilogy, but they also sort of took the opportunity to really pay attention to the Awakening lore as well.
Oh, yeah. Has everybody here played Act 6?
No, but
Same. At this
Well,
point,
you're-
I do know but I've just never played the game. So
Yeah. All right. Well, for those of you who haven't, the super secret final boss of this game is Grima. Like 3,000 years before the events of Awakening. And yeah, that's kind of insane. I guess that's not the only thing, obviously.
Yeah,
but...
like not even that. It's just like the Regalian Empire's crest is sort of this ancient rendition of the Valmy's Empire's crest. There's a bunch of connections with FE12 as well. Like there's a bunch of foreshadowing to Marth's journey, especially with the White Wing sisters and Zeke. Who, if you don't know who Zeke actually is, you need to play Shadow Dragon. Damn it. There's a lot of foreshadowing everywhere. There's a lot of connections, sort of things that tie into this. Conrad in particular comes to mind, and Halcyon giving out masks sort of leads into that one particular story arc in New Mystery. And
I guess the addition of things like the military.
And there's a lot of
and I guess the extension.
There's a good chunk of the soundtrack, not a lot of it, but there's a decent portion of the soundtrack that actually comes from New Mystery of the Emblem. Particularly the endgame boss theme from New Mystery is actually also the boss theme with Grima in Fire Emblem Echoes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that and giving Celica an actual legitimate regalia after she didn't have one in FE2. That's like the two biggest things I like about this game from a lore perspective.
Yeah, they really gave Celica something to do in this game.
Yeah.
And they even built her an arc that she didn't have beforehand.
Yeah,
honestly, they did the same with Alm too, even though Alm was always kind of the main lord of this game.
Sure.
Yeah, Berkut's probably the biggest thing they did for Alm, for obvious reasons. You know, him being related to Alm by blood gave Alm a little bit of an arc at the end once he realizes this, but he also gave Alm this arc all throughout his route. And Celica got something similar in the form of Conrad, who kind of appeared throughout her route and did things. And Jeddah plays a much more prominent role in Celica's route compared to what he did in FE2, where he basically kind of just showed up at the end.
Well, good, because just showing up at the end would be kind of weird. But just kind of like, okay, who are you?
One of the worst things about FE2 that I can remember, just to rag on it a little bit more because I can. I was reminded the other day that FE2 kind of just forgets about Milla after Act 3. And I swear to God, I started laughing once I remembered this, because in Echoes, there's a lot of stuff that happens with Milla after Act 3, especially in Act 4 and 5. And in Gaiden, they kind of forget Milla existed after Act 3, even though she's kind of the primary reason for Celica having a journey at all.
So basically what we're learning here is that Intelligent Systems put a lot more effort and thought into the story and the lore.
So what we're hearing is they turned a terrible game into an amazing game.
It's an NES game. You can't really blame it too much.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, just RPGs in general at that time period couldn't do everything that they really should have to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't blame it too much because it's an NES game, but you can blame it a significant amount.
So one more thing I'll mention about the remake is that I feel the animations in it were a big step up from Fate. The animation in terms of combat, like, you know, the enemies, how they use their weapons, or not the enemies, but the units, how they use their weapons. It was really cool to see. I know some people play with the animations off, and that's fine, but I really like seeing just the choreography. I can't just say words anymore. Choreography. And this, you know, it was just very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I noticed in the animation department whenever you're looking at the 3DS games as a whole is Awakening had animations that were fine, but weren't really fleshed out like Tellius. Fates probably had, I think, the closest animation level you would probably get to Tellius at the time. It was a really big step up for Awakening. And Echoes was an even bigger step up, which I actually think is closer to Three Houses animation, which is actually kind of impressive whenever you think about it.
Totally.
Initially, I was really annoyed that, whenever I first started playing, I was really annoyed that you couldn't, like, have the traditional Fire Emblem view like you could in Tellius, Awakening, and Fate. Then I realized you interact with the frickin' environment. And now, then it kind of made me realize, wait a second, they're actually interacting with the environment in the battle animations, and that's why they won't let you have the original perspective, because they have to have a dynamic camera.
Yeah, and you know, as someone who I usually play it this way anyway, it was I really appreciated that they interacted with the environment.
Yeah, like there's a lot of games where I will play without the animations, but I will not play this game without the animations.
True. Yep. Question for you guys.
Sure.
What did y'all guys think about the dungeon aspect of the game?
Loved it.
The dungeons were pretty great. They were close to how the villages worked in the original game, which is weird because villages are now completely different in the remake, and they're kind of one of the thing. But I think both of them are really good in their execution.
In the original game, were dungeons just like battle after battle after battle?
Yeah, pretty much. With dungeons, you kind of just walked into a room, and that's the entire dungeon, just this one fight in there. The main dungeon that wasn't like this was Duma's Tower, and to an extent, the final dungeon in Act 5. But for the most part, 90% of the dungeons were just one room. You go through the empty room. Here's a battle. Here's a shrine at the end. Like, literally 3 rooms. So a lot of the dungeons got, like, a lot of the more complex dungeons, like you see in Act 4, pretty much completely original to the remake for the most part, in terms of map layout.
So the dungeons for me, I like them, but I think the theming and the environment themselves are a little bland and boring. I understand they're dungeons, so they're going to be caves and that's fine. But it would have been cooler to have, or more pleasant to have different types of environments to explore, and not just dank, dark caves.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I did like the refreshing feeling of being able to move around in third person with your character, and I liked that. So I appreciated that much at least.
Good answers. For me, I mean, Jacob wasn't here, but I came from predominantly Shin Megami Tensei, the Persona series. So seeing that kind of aspect of some dungeon crawling, gameplay really just caught my attention. Really just amplified my love for the game. Also, it's the same.
You think the dungeons in Echoes were probably a little bit inspired by the dungeons in Tokyo Mirage Sessions because they have basically the same mechanics as that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took aspects from Tokyo Mirage Sessions during the development of Echoes as far as dungeons are concerned.
Potentially, but I do think Atlas was the prime developer of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I don't know how much.
Oh no, yeah, they did 80% of the job.
Yeah, they did, but Koei did.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, Koei did 70% of the job in Net Warriors, and that didn't take them. They didn't stop them from taking a ton of mechanics in Warriors and putting in 3 houses.
Yeah, but that's because Koei did most of 3 houses. Well, I don't know about most, but they did.
But at the same time, it's not like IS didn't know what was going on with TMS.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm not gonna argue some schematics or anything like that.
Yeah. Did you guys have any major issues with this game?
Actually, like dungeons, I that was one thing, but I'm okay with them. Like it's not like a huge issue. But my biggest issue, it would have to be the animation, the cutscene animations. So.
Oh, really?
when you go from Awakening and even Fates, Fates like they look pretty, but they were pretty like that. But Awakening, like a lot of them were so good, like so well done, best in the series in my opinion. But then you look at Echoes, then it was just a step down. Like they're not terrible, but it was disappointing to see that quality dip. And I know there's a lot more cutscenes, and I appreciate that. But it's disappointing that they couldn't find a better balance between quality and the quantity.
Quantity? All right. I mean, I don't really mind the cutscenes in this.
I think they're well choreographed.
I thought they looked fine.
But there's like a few times where like Celica will like float up the stairs, or there's another one where the models very good. But anyway.
Okay, what's happening over there?
I don't know. It's not me.
Not me.
Jacob?
What?
Did he just like move your mic or something, or I guess your phone, or?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, all of us heard that.
Negatives for me. Actually, I really can't find any negatives for me. I think I'm still in the nostalgic mode. like I said, this game was the one that actually brought me back into Fire Emblem. Prior from playing from Path of Radiance and Sacred Stones. Not being able to beat the game. But like I said, this game like brought me back, so I really can't say anything bad about it. I just love the game, story wise, and even the lore behind it. Also, development of it. Also, it's such a story. Also,
I'm gonna say probably my biggest. Like I'm very much with you. Where for the most part, this game can be flawless to me. Like I just absolutely love it. I do take some issue with the fact that it kind of goes over its own morals a little bit.
Oh, really?
Where, like, there's a whole subplot in the beginning where, like, Alm is not actually, like, of noble blood. And eventually he goes through and, as a commoner, earns the trust of, of Clive and of Lucas and all of them. And it turns out that he's a noble anyways, so...
My thing with that is I don't think that was ever really the point of Alm's story.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like they do it in such a way where I think a lot of people mistook that, but a big thing even as early as Act 1 that Alm's story more focuses on, especially even with Desai, I think the point of Alm's story is more about this responsibility that those in power have to actually shoulder, which is a recurring theme throughout the entire New Arcania trilogy, especially with Marth and then Alm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I will agree with that, but at the same time, they didn't have... Like, that was a big thing with Lucas and with Forsyth.
Sure, but no one knew.
And that was cause for.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, like, they didn't know that he was royalty, and he didn't know that he was royalty.
I mean, like, even outside Ulm, like, this is definitely a theme.
Yeah, I mean, and
so just the fact they kind of played Ulm into that theme, like, they had the theme outside, and they played Ulm into that theme. And playing Ulm into that theme, I feel like, was a mistake.
Okay.
Just because just based on where the story was going, there's no way that the theme would be able to stay with him, really. Does that make sense?
I think it's more that.
Yeah,
maybe this is a localization issue, because I feel more like the story kind of wants to pivot everything towards, oh, this ruler's really shitty. They shouldn't be shitty. They should, like, do the right thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you have power, you need to use that power responsibly, and then Al kind of has to learn that over the course of the thing. It's like, oh, if they don't do that, then the commoners have to fend for themselves. But I can see they didn't finesse that well enough, at least in localization.
No, they didn't. Like, still a great game. There's just a minor nitpick that I have with how they handled that specific.
And that's fair. Nitpicks are what they are. I don't have issues with it, really, just because I think that there's that payoff of, you think he's, a commoner, but in reality he is royalty. And that's just like a really, I mean, I guess for some that's like, oh, we've seen this before. But for me, I think they did it in such a way that it felt like a surprise, especially not knowing Gaiden. But so yeah, for me, it felt like it fit the overall theme, even though there was that theme of commoners and royalty seeing eye to eye. But I think because Alm grew up as a commoner despite being royalty, he kind of is the bridge to that gap. If you.
Okay, yeah, I'll believe that.
Anyway, didn't mean to like become too argumentative there.
No, that's perfectly fine.
But I do see what you're saying.
There's not really any major flaws I would point out with this game. Maybe a few of the. I mean, it ties really well into the new Arcane trilogy. I won't really fault it for being a sequel. You kind of have to play Shadow Dragon to fully understand, because it's a direct sequel. That's obviously going to happen sometimes. It's obviously going to happen most of the time. Really, God, I can't really think of anything bad about this game, aside from maybe the forging system being a little bit too convoluted.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd still say that it's a better forging system than Shadow Dragon had.
What did you say to me?
I said I don't like the forging system in Shadow Dragon.
Oh, no, I know what you said, but I just wanted to indicate I took great displeasure with it.
I am well aware, and I knew going into that statement that you would take great displeasure in it, but it is the truth all the same.
So I guess one more potential thing that could be a negative that I don't really see as a negative too much, but I've heard others complain, and I'm curious what you guys think. Some of the maps are too basic. Like, there's not much going on in the map. Yeah. And I can see that complaint, but for some reason it didn't bother me too much. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it didn't bother me either. Like, I get that a lot of maps are the same, but they add a lot more visual flair to them compared to the original Echoes. Like, original Gaiden, not the original Echoes. The original Gaiden, there's a lot more visual flair to them. That kind of makes them feel different, even though mechanically they aren't different, and it's enough for me to kind of accept them.
Yeah, I think between the gameplay and, like you said, the visual flair, that is very forgivable. Yeah. Even though, yes, the maps are kind of not too complicated.
For me, I have no complaint. I mean, what can you do? I mean, mountains look like mountains, castles look like castles, like to the point, like, what else did you want them inside? Did you want like extra enemies or? And in that aspect, I don't see like the problem with it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else that you guys want to bring up before we get into the rating section?
The artwork.
Oh yes.
Hidari is a god.
So good. Very I love it.
Yeah, like that really brought life to these characters almost as much as the voice acting.
One thing I really noticed about Hidari that was actually really interesting is I know she's actively trying to emulate Daisuke Izuka with this game, and it makes a lot of sense.
It's a she?
Yeah, Hidari's a she.
Mind is blown.
There's a lot of indication that she's trying to emulate Izuka's art on Shadow Dragon: A New Mystery of the Emblem. There's a lot of scenes in this that directly parallel, a lot of drawn scenes that literally directly parallel a lot of things from Shadow Dragon: A New Mystery of the Emblem. It's obvious why, but it's actually kind of surprising to me that they gave a new artist this instead of Izuka himself. But I think the effect kind of helps Echoes kind of fit in with the trilogy while still acting as a sort of intentional black sheep to it.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's really good. I think it makes the remake stand out more than just having the same art style as Awakening and Faith. If it kept the same style, it wouldn't have ruined the game, but it would not have made as big of an impression, I feel.
I mean, I love Yusuke Kazaki's work, but I had no complaints with Awakening. I definitely didn't have any complaints with Fates either. But I don't know. Hidari's is just on another level. I haven't been so immaculated with work since the which was it? Was it FE6 artwork?
I mean, the FE6 artwork was really good.
Or FE7? No, it was FE7. I forgot. Is it Senri? I forgot who's the artist for that one. But
well, anyway, I mean, we get what you're saying.
Yeah, good artwork is good artwork. It's the eye.
Yeah.
It complements the game.
And Echoes is a very good example of great artwork.
I don't really think Koisuke Yusuke, or pronounce his name, I'll probably butcher that. I don't really think he was ever really on the table to do this, because Intelligent Systems doesn't really consider Echoes a 3DS game.
Oh,
and that's a weird thing to say when you think what I mean, but don't consider this a part of the same set of games that Awakening and Fates are. They consider this a part of the DS games.
Right, and I wasn't implying that they ever considered it. I was just saying that, I'm glad that it didn't keep him on, even though Awakening and Fates were incredibly successful.
I know,
that they moved on to another art style.
Makes me a little bit confused why they didn't get Daisuke Izuka, but I also understand why they did it with Hidari.
I think just bring in the new. Keep on bringing new art styles.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
New is better.
Well, maybe. I don't know about new is better. I don't know about that. But in this case, we get to see a new style, and it's a beautiful style. So
I think Hidari actually did really well, because for a while I actually was thinking she was Daisuke, but something fell off, because she perfectly emulates a lot of the scenes from Shadow Dragon: A New Mystery, while still contexting them in the world of Shadows of Valentia, which kind of fits how Alm's story is meant to parallel Marth. The Japanese subtitle is literally The Other Hero King, so this Echoes is kind of a story. Alm's arc is in a lot of ways meant to be a mirror of Marth's arc, so I think they actually did really well with the art style from a sort of symbolic sense, I guess is the word.
That's fair.
And I also like Alm's promoted design on that front, because Alm's promoted design kind of keeps the feel of Alm, but they add enough new details to it that weren't in Gaiden, like the cape and the details on the armor that they didn't have before, and the shield. Kind of makes him parallel Marth really well, while still keeping the sense of his identity.
Well, there you go.
All right. In that case, should we get on to ranking this game?
Yeah, probably.
I'm ready.
So, easy S for me. This is no doubt my favorite Fire Emblem game.
This is a pretty easy S too, for me.
Yeah. It is near perfect. What do you two think?
Same. I'd put it up on S also.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be a 4 for 4, but I gotta do it. I gotta say S. This is my favorite Fire Emblem game, and so for me, it's S tier.
Yeah, this game for the longest time, and I still can't. I can't decide whether I like New Mystery or Echoes more, so I kind of the two of them.
Yeah, like I keep saying I go back and forth between this and Blazing Blade, but let's be honest, Blazing Blade doesn't hold a candle to this.
Hey, you said it.
Yeah, I did.
I wouldn't say Durandal is very good for holding candles.
So yeah, there we are. 2 games in, and we've already got an S tier.
It's only downhill from here, right? I'm kidding.
It's not going to go downhill for a while. Until about, I don't know, number 14.
Whoa.
Yeah, just to give a random number. Not related to anything.
A random number?
Yeah, completely random. Not related to anything
27.
else. Yes, until the 27th Fire Emblem game. That'll be where things fall apart.
You got me. Okay, well,
All right.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I gotta charge my phone for the next thing. It's kind of dying on me.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. So we'll call it here. Neither of you guys have played New Mysteries, so you can shoo. Don't actually shoo because we're probably not going to record it immediately. But
I'm gonna be.
in the context of the video, that's
doing
next. And you guys are going to be gone.
TMS. Like right now.
I guess it is right now, isn't it? Should probably go move over to that chat.
Yeah, at least pretty soon.
I'll probably go grab a snack before that happens. But all right, cool.